Were you exposed to noise in service? Could be aircraft, infantry, armor, heavy equipment, anything that produced noise. You may have noticed some loss in hearing, and you're not sure if you can move forward with a VA disability claim for hearing. It's possible. I'm going to let you know what you need to do before you file. I'm going to break it down without jargon and do it in 5 minutes. Okay, step one, you need a hearing loss disability. You're probably laughing. Just because you have difficulty hearing does not necessarily mean the VA will consider you to have hearing loss at a compensable rate. They use very specific numbers in their interpretation of a hearing exam. They're looking for 40 decibels or more at certain frequencies, 26 decibels or more at 3 or more frequencies, or a Maryland CNC speech recognition score of less than 94%. So if you haven't had a recent hearing test, that's a good place to start. I'd go there. And realize this, you may have difficulty hearing in everyday life and still have an audiogram that says that you have some hearing loss, but again, it may not meet the VA's definition of hearing loss. All right, second, you need something in your military service that could have caused your current hearing loss. So that question is asked again as, what happened during my military service that could have damaged my hearing? You may have worked around aircraft. You may have been in artillery or armor, any of the combat arms, engineering, maintenance, or worked around generators or other loud equipment. However you were exposed, you need to tell that story because you are going to be talking to a C&P examiner, a VA assigned examiner, who may have not been in the military, or if they were, didn't have your experience as a point of reference. So be specific. Don't simply say, I was exposed to loud noise. It's too vague. What was your military job? What equipment were you around? How often were you exposed? For how many years? Did you use hearing protection? What was the quality of that hearing protection? And if you noticed anything while you were in service, any complaints about hearing or ringing in your ears, that's important. The clearer you can be, the more comprehensive you can be, the better chance you have. Just don't assume the VA is going to discover this on your behalf. All right, third, and this is a big one, the VA needs to connect your military experience to your current hearing loss. That's called nexus. It's a fancy government term for the connection between the two. And this is where your medical history becomes important. If you have military records that show hearing problems during service, that's useful. That's probably the strongest evidence you can have. If you had significant noise exposure and your records support that, that's useful. So if you had if you were in combat or heavy operations tempo, lots of qualifications, if you had to be checked regularly, if you were on flying status, you were evaluated every year. So those are data points the VA can use to build a picture. That's also useful. But what if you didn't have those things? Well, then you have to rely on lay statements or witness statements. And these are statements of people who have witnessed you struggling with your hearing loss. Even though they may not be medical or medically trained, they are first-person eyewitnesses, and their observation is still important. Why do hearing loss claims get denied? Number one, no current hearing loss disability. That means the audiogram simply doesn't meet the VA requirements. Number two, the VA agrees you were exposed to noise, but the medical opinion says your current hearing loss isn't related to that exposure. Very common issue. Number three, there's little evidence connecting the current hearing loss to military service. Again, there's that nexus or a lack of nexus that we discussed. For example, there may be long periods after service where there's no documentation of hearing problems. That doesn't automatically mean that your claim is impossible, but you need to understand that the VA is looking at your entire history, not just your military history. Number four, significant post-service noise exposure. So if you spent 30 years after the military around loud machinery, firearms, construction equipment, you name it, that could be, in the VA's view, the true source of your hearing loss. Number five, the veteran doesn't clearly explain what happened. So what should you do before filing? Here's a checklist. Number one, get a current hearing test. Number two, know whether your results meet the VA's definition of hearing loss. Number three, write down your military noise exposure, your job, equipment, locations, duration, and frequency. Number four, think about when you first noticed your hearing problems. And five, gather evidence that helps explain the connection between your military noise exposure and your current hearing loss. That can include medical records, military records, statements from people who personally observed your hearing problems or your exposure. And in addition to all that evidence, the VA will also consider the results of the C&P or claims examiner in addition to your evidence. So, we covered a lot in a little over 5 minutes. Here's the stuff I want you to take away. A hearing loss claim isn't simply, I was around loud noise and I can't hear. You have to establish 3 things. You have to have a hearing loss disability at VA standards. You have to have something that happened in your military service that could have caused it. And there has to be a connection between the two, that nexus. If you can clearly establish those pieces, you're giving the VA a much better foundation for which to decide your claim. Well, that wraps it up. I'm Matt Webb, a County Veteran Service Officer. If you're a veteran trying to make sense of veterans' benefits, subscribe to my channel. I'll continue to break down VA benefits and claims in 5 minutes or less without the government jargon. I'll see you in the next one.